Hey, this is Mrs. Reichelt, and our next video we're going to go ahead and finish up the major glands of the digestive system. So we'll go ahead and get started. So the thyroid gland is the first one. It's found at the base of the throat. So it's basically anterior or in front of the trachea. So it's right in here. This kind of little structure is the thyroid gland. And the thyroid gland has two major hormones associated with it. The first one is thyroxine. This just stimulates your metabolism, and it's regulated by the thyroid stimulating hormone, or TSH. The other one is calcitonin, and it reduces blood calcium level, and it's regulated by calcium levels in the blood. I always think because it has an N at the end, calcitonin, I think N for negative, which means it's reducing it. I don't know if that'll help you, but it sometimes helps me to remember which one is which, because the next couple will have to do with calcium as well. So the next up is the parathyroid gland. The parathyroid gland is located on the back or the posterior wall of the thyroid. So this is the posterior view, and the parathyroid glands are right here. They kind of remind me of a butterfly. So the thyroid kind of makes up a butterfly, and then the parathyroid glands are kind of on the butterfly wings almost. So the hormones involved are the parathyroid hormone. Can't talk. The parathyroid hormone, which raises blood calcium level, and it's regulated by calcium level in the blood. So calcitonin from the thyroid gland is going to reduce the calcium level, whereas the parathyroid hormone raises it. So be careful of those. Those are two that a lot of students miss. The next up are the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands basically sit on top of the kidneys. So here are the adrenal glands. They're made up of two regions as well. You have the adrenal cortex, which is the outer region. So the cortex is kind of this pinkishy area in this triangle. And then the inside is the adrenal medulla, which is the inside, or that kind of purpley area. So it's subdivided into two different areas. We'll do the adrenal medulla first. So the adrenal medulla deals with epinephrine, the hormone epinephrine, which is responsible for raising blood glucose levels as well as increasing metabolism. And it's regulated by the sympathetic nervous system. And remember, that is your fight or flight response. Then the adrenal cortex has two hormones associated with it. The first one are the glucocorticoids, which increase blood glucose. Then the other ones they're regulated by the adrenocorticotropic hormone. Then the mineralocorticoids are the other one, and the mineralocorticoids are going to promote the reabsorption of sodium and excretion of potassium in your kidneys. So this is regulated by the changes in your blood volume, blood pressure, and the amount of sodium or the amount of potassium in your blood. And then let's see, the pineal gland is next. The pineal gland is located in the third ventricle of your brain. If you remember from the nervous system, there are four ventricles. Those are those fluid-filled spaces. They're filled with cerebrospinal fluid. You have the first and second ventricle, which makes your lateral ventricles, and then you have the third and fourth ventricle. So it's found on the third ventricle. It's right here. It's very small. And the major hormone is the melatonin. So melatonin deals with your biological rhythms and seasonal and daily cycles. Think of it sort of like your circadian rhythm, where you have basic rhythms for the day. This one specifically helps with the light and dark cycles, the meaning falling asleep, waking up, those kinds of things. Then we have the thymus gland. So the thymus gland is located posterior to the sternum. So it's behind the sternum, and it's kind of in between the lungs, as you can see right here. And the thymus gland is actually the largest in infants and children, and it has a really big function too. Thymosin is the name of the hormone, and it programs T lymphocytes. It's not known what it's regulated by, but T lymphocytes means that it has to do with the immune system. Then we have the pancreas. So the pancreas is located closest to the stomach in the abdominal cavity. So if we look at this diagram right here, you have the stomach outline, and the pancreas is located just posterior to it, or I guess just deep to it. Sometimes it's known as the pancreatic isolates, or the isolates of Langerhans. This is a mixed gland, so it produces both endocrine and exocrine functions. So endocrine meaning that some of the functions, it will take some of those hormones and dispose of them into, not dispose, but disperse them into the bloodstream. And then sometimes they're exocrine because it's going to put things directly into the stomach. So it's a digestive as well as a immune system type gland. So there's a couple different functions there. So here's the major functions of, or the major hormones, I guess, associated with the pancreas. You have insulin. Insulin helps to reduce blood glucose, and it's regulated by glucose levels, whereas glucagon helps to increase blood glucose. So basically when you eat food, oh, that's not a very straight line, but when you eat food, your sugar levels are going to increase, and then after a while your sugar levels will decrease, and then you'll eat another snack and they'll increase, and then after a while they'll decrease. Well, basically that's as you eat, you get more and less sugar depending on what phase you're in. So insulin kind of goes behind your meal. So insulin will be, it'll notice that you have an increase in sugar, so it's going to be distributed into your bloodstream to help reduce your blood sugar. Then it'll go down, and then, so these graphs kind of work in opposite of each other. So insulin and glucagon are constantly working together. People that have type 1 diabetes, they do not produce insulin. It's an autoimmune disease. So if you know someone that's type 1 diabetic, they do not produce insulin. And someone who is a type 2 diabetic, they do produce insulin, but their body ignores, your cells ignore those signals. And then the next one here are the gonads. So the gonads, they have a couple of different locations depending on whether we're talking about males or females, but the gonads are producing the sex cells, which sex cells are actually exocrine. So in a female, you have your ovaries, you have your fallopian tubes, and you have the uterus, and then the cervix. A male will have the testes, which includes the actual testis, the epididymis, and then you have the scrotum, and then this is the vas deferens. So we'll talk about each of those a little bit more specifically when we get to the reproductive system. But the hormones that are involved here, in the testes, you have androgens, which support sperm formation and development and maintenance of male secondary sex characteristics. It's regulated by follicle-stimulating hormone as well as the luteinizing hormone. And then females have estrogen, which will stimulate uterine lining growth. It also develops and maintains female sex characteristics. Progesterone also stimulates the uterine lining growth as well, and they're both regulated by FSH and LH, or luteinizing hormone. So I hope you found all of those hormones helpful, and certainly not all of the hormones, but all the ones that we're going to go through today. Hope you found that helpful.